there it is. Okay, perfect. Well, good evening, everyone. This is Tanisha Carroll, music therapy expert and assignment coach, Mommy and Me on assignment. And this is Shift the Narrative, Rethink Madness Moments. We're here every third Tuesday, and we're always interviewing and talking with powerful men and women and about their relationships and their influence in our world. And so I am so happy to have a wonderful woman who I've followed over the years, who I've looked up to from a distance, and I'm going to introduce her to you in just a moment. But I want you to take this opportunity to invite your friends and family onto our platform, invite them in so that we can together begin to have this conversation about women to women relationships, as well as relationships between mothers and daughters. In our current society, there is this idea that women cannot get along. And my premise here is that there is no reason why women cannot get along. And I believe it begins with the mother-daughter relationship. Because if we say that women cannot get along, then we say that mothers and daughters won't get along. However, we are using, not only we're changing this narrative, but we're also utilizing music as a primary tool to support the idea of building positive interactions between mothers and daughters, as well as between women, okay? And we're doing that in order to foster positive communication styles, to resolve conflict, and to get clarity about our assignment in the earth, all right? So if you are a woman, you have women in your family, you have aunts, best friends, this is a great conversation for you to be involved in. And so I am so happy. I see my mother-in-law, Vivian Carroll, is online already watching us. And this is her dear friend from so many years ago. And I want to introduce her to you. Like I told you, she's a woman of faith. She is an educated and educator, and she is a music therapy clinician and researcher. She is formerly of the University Hospital Director of Music Therapy and Arts, and for 35 years, and recently retired a few years ago. And years ago, when I was a music therapy student, I shadowed her as a part of just, you don't see very many women of color in the music therapy field. And so it was amazing to me that me growing up in Cleveland, Ohio, that this other woman of color was also in music therapy. And so it had a great impact on me. And I want to introduce to you Dr. Deforia Lane. And she, as I said, now is retired. However, she is very much involved in the music therapy world and is extremely influential and travels all over the world, still impacting up and coming music therapists and of all cultural backgrounds. But I know she's having an amazing impact on men and women of color who are entering into the music therapy field. So I want you guys to welcome her, and I want to thank you, Dr. Lane, for being here tonight for this conversation about music therapy, relationships, and how it impacts those relationships. So thank you for being here.
My pleasure to be here. Thank you for the invitation. I hope I prove worthy.
You all will get to know that the humility and also the comedy of Dr. Lane, because she is a joy, and she is such a pleasure, and I love it. And we've already been talking, we've already been, just talking about the impact of music therapy. But Dr. Lane, I want to ask you, when it comes to utilizing music therapy in building positive relationships, how have you seen it play out, or how do you think it could have a impact?
We encounter music from before we're born. When we're in our mother's womb, we're exposed to the rhythm of the heart, the sounds of water. We hear, though muted, the voices of parents, grandparents, whoever is around. And I've learned and know it to be true that once a child is born, the music that they were exposed to in utero, they recognize. For example, if you sang, if your child was especially active in the womb, kicking and those punching and those sorts of things, hearing the mother try to quiet the child by singing a simple lullaby and good night, at a decreased tempo, at a soft flowing kind of way. When that child is fretful after it's born and that mother begins to sing lullaby and good night, that child will quiet. So the memory is already being filled from the very beginning. So when it comes to relationships and how music affects us, looking back over time, I see music intertwined in our lives from first cry to last breath. And it can be powerful in so many ways. So, yeah, I don't get me started. I have stories that that take my breath away, that I've been exposed to. Didn't necessarily go in knowing, oh, I've got my techniques together. I know some things happen from a conductor that is an orchestrator beyond our abilities. And I have been the recipient of people who are open to how music works, and to a creator who just shows me how awesome, how powerful he can be too, at just the right time.
I love it. What you're saying now, here on this platform, we openly discuss how the greater one, the creator, is a part of everything that we do. And so we love God over here. And we
Hallelujah.
know, with him being the creator of all things, including music, that he purposefully created music with this type of impact on our lives. And so I'm glad that you shared that experience of how you have seen the music impact people, but it's beyond just what the music itself does, that it goes into what only God can do.
Amen. You're absolutely right. May I tell you one example, just because I'm forgetful? So I remember being called. I'd only been working in the hospital for about 6 weeks, and I remember being called into the intensive care unit where a 20-year-old mother was brought in brain dead. And within her womb was growing a baby who was probably at that point about 6 months gestation. And the nurses wanted me to see the baby. And, as I said, I was new and I had never worked with anybody brain dead. And I remember going into the room and pulling the curtains behind me because I did not want anybody to see my legs doing this. And the mother was, I remember she had bright red hair and very small, but over her, and she looked just like she was sleeping. And she had a blanket over her belly, and there was this little lump under it. And I remember going over and just placing my hands very gently on top of that little lump. And I began immediately the song, "He's got the whole world in his hands, he's got the time, baby." And as I was singing, that baby began to dance under my fingers. I felt knees and elbows just rolling around. And, it was, and I was very lightly, it wasn't like I was pressing down. And the nurse came in, zipped up the curtain and came inside. And she said, "Honey, would you mind if I took ultrasound while you're doing this?" And I said, "Sure." And she put the jelly on the belly and took the ultrasound wand and she placed it on top of that mother's belly. And she said, "Oh, you can keep singing. That's just fine." So I did a changed tempo and I did, "This old man, he played too. He played knick-knack on my shoe." And the baby's heartbeat just zoomed. And the nurse looked at me like, And my heart was fluttering by that time. And then I changed it and I did something very, lullaby and good night. And that baby's heart rate began to decrease.
Mm.
And the nurse looked at me and I looked at her. And then she looked at the mother's IV, the monitors that were hooked above the IV, and the mother's heart rate had changed as well and was fluctuating with the music. It scared the nurse. She said, "Honey, I'll just be back at a different time." And I didn't know that heart rate, blood pressure, respiration rate could be effective in or affected by music in a person who had no brain waves. I mean, I was amazed. And when I was able to go into the operating room when the baby was born, and her name was Samantha. And when she was lifted from the womb, there was no sound.
Mm.
There was singing. That child went, probably about an E flat, something like that, above middle C, and people just kind of, that there was a lot of joy in that room. And when she was taken to the neonatal intensive care unit and placed in a little incubator, when neonates are born and they are under stress, they have a scrunch face, their tongues are thrusting, their oxygenation level plummets, they splay their fingers. Those are the signs of a child in distress. So I would go over to the incubator and I'd put my face way down and I would do, "He's got the whole," and that child would relax. I mean, these were things that I was learning and amazed by at a very early stage in
Mhm.
at the hospital, and what that could do for relationships. I, of course, told those things to the grandmother, the mother, of course, after the baby was born. Um, she gave life to others. She gave her liver. She gave her lungs. I mean, many people received life after that. But just to tell you, the relationship with the grandmother, to tell me the songs that her daughter and the baby's father knew, were just a means of connecting
Yeah.
and served all of us well. So yeah.
I mean, that is so powerful, to be able to see not only the relationship, how music had a relationship on the child thriving and through the remainder of the pregnancy, but even the impact it began to have with the grandmother and the father, and even the mother and the child while they're there. I mean,
Mm,
it's it really is amazing to always be able to go back to music because it is so universal. It transcends, how we might have grown up. It transcends cultures. It transcends even different emotions, and it has such a great ability to impact us right where we are and where we are headed to, like where we think we're going. It has such an amazing impact in that as well. Tell me about when you think about relationships between women. Okay, and here we talk a lot about the relationship between women because of this negative narrative. And so what narrative have you personally encountered when it comes to female relationships, be it positive or negative, as you have come up in
mm. Well, two things come to mind. I had music teachers, one at 5 years old, who was my first piano teacher outside of my mom. My mom taught me first, and then she provided a teacher who loved me to kingdom come. I mean, so my relationship with her, she was very approving. She was kinesthetically, she touched and hugged. She introduced me to new kinds of music. Um, that relationship started both my love of people and teachers, but also of music too, because it was connected with that. At 16, I started taking voice lessons, and that was an amazing time because I I had a teacher who again loved promoting or pouring into me the fact that I had something she thought was very worthwhile and beautiful. And so she said, I want you to audition at my alma mater and University of Cincinnati College Conservatory of Music. And here I am, okay. And what happened as a result of that? My whole life was transformed. I mean, I was able to meet people. I was able to realize um, there is great there's technique and learning and grooming behind what music is and what it can do. Opportunity came from women who had confidence in me, and at that early age, and at a teenage age too, which we know is quite a transformative time in all of our lives, it meant a great deal. So people pouring into me, at church especially, uh, beautiful singing, and we had 5 different choirs in our church, and so the music was varied. The gospel choir, the templite that did the hymns and the anthems, the children's choir, the youth choir. There were just, and the men's chorus, and the female women's choir. I felt inundated, surrounded, immersed in this music that not only attracted my ear and my intellect in terms of the words and what it was teaching, but also my emotions too. So I think relationships are deeply affected from the very beginning of life, and throughout. It's just a matter of who you're paying attention to, who feeds into you. And I will tell you one thing, Tanisha. I told the Lord, because of all the people who shared themselves, not just what they knew, but who they were with me, I want to do that with others. So I've had a lot of opportunity to give back, to do that, and encourage people greatly to do the same.
Yes, and we are benefactors of that here today, your willingness to give of yourself, and we're forever grateful. You I like how you said that their willingness, these women in your life, willingness to pour into you, not only musically, but as a person. And I'm certain that it helped you and in your formative years, and you stated even as your college, to be able to achieve things that maybe without these women you might not have had the same level of confidence, or even want to step out of maybe your own comfort zone to go to the University of Cincinnati to audition and all those things. Um, I love hearing about women who are willing to pour into others. And I think that it's something that I enjoy doing. And I think that more women have to take that responsibility. I think in a generation's past, there were a lot of women who just kind of pulled the little ones and the young ones. Here, come on, let me teach you this. Let me show you how to do this, whatever this might be. And in this instance, we're talking about music, but it could be cooking, and it could be cleaning up, it could be driving, or but taking them along. I think about, here in Mommy and Me, we are looking to foster better relationships between mothers, and specifically their tween daughters, because tweens, they're in that stage, 8 to 12, and they are really figuring out, oh, I want to do things a little differently. I want to stretch out. I want to do what the older kids are doing, but I'm not old enough. I'm not a baby anymore, but I'm also not a teenager. And so, I have a tween daughter. And so I have been experiencing this where, it's something as simple as I want to wear lipstick. And I'm like, well, let's start with lip gloss. And so with that, music has become a place where she and I can find commonality. We can find a place to build positive communication and positive, interactions. Tell me, what do you think, or how is music able to draw in maybe a younger generation to an older generation? when it comes to having a good relationship? How do you think music can be that bridge?
Oh, when I was 16, or maybe even, yeah, 16, 15 or 16, the music I listened to was a lot of Motown and on the radio. And one of the songs was It's in His Kiss. How about the way oh no, that's not the way. And something I'm listening to, all I say, if you wanna know if he loves you so, it's in his kiss. That's where it is. Oh yeah. Well, I listened to that song and I was at this teenage age where I'm ready to experience something. I was flat-footed. I had big shoes, big feet. I was awkward. I had big glasses, and I didn't feel pretty or anything. I was skinny as a rail, and yet these feelings that bubble up in you and as a teacher. So when I heard that song, I remember going to my mother and saying, Mom, I know how to determine if a boy loves you. It's in his kiss. My mother, she looked at me and mama is just grace personified. And butter melts in her mouth. But she looked at me and she said, daughter, not exactly. No, not, she didn't lambaste me or whatever, but I could tell by the laughter, that little giggle she had, like, girl, you just don't know. And it was okay. I was very shy about talking about love or puppy love or being attracted to boys. So I couldn't bring it up in words, but I could bring it up in the music.
Mm.
And Al Green and the Temptations, My Girl, and all of these things were my means of dealing with being a teenager, being even a 20 something. And music was central. And it's sensuous as well. So when it came to relationships with mom and dad, I couldn't talk about that stuff with daddy, sure enough, but I embraced it with my mother through the music. And it could be in choir at school, where I'm standing next to somebody who is, and I'll talk about his voice or how we participated in a play or something. So music it's an indelible factor that just grounds you, because it's in so many areas of our lives. Yeah, I'm sorry. Did I answer your question?
You did. I mean, you're talking exactly about it, how it makes that connection, and gave us a great example of how you use it to connect with your own mother. And I love it because you're basically saying that you use the music to ask questions or talk about things that made you uncomfortable. And I think it's a great tool. It's something that I use in my group a lot to say, the music, the music that our children are listening to, we need to listen to it so that we can use it as a conversation piece and a conversation tool. Oh, you like this song? Let's really get into what are the lyrics to this song. What are they really talking about? Who is this person? And it's something that I think as moms, we have to see beyond just whatever the person who's singing, the artist, whether we like them or not, but why is my child listening to this song? And what are they really getting out of it? What are they really trying to say? Because as you say, you're like, I got the answer and I found it in this music. And it's like mom has to come alongside and say, you know what, baby, that might not be the exact answer. Let's see if
Yes.
we can figure out something else.
Mhm.
I also heard you say that she didn't come back at you like, girl,
Mhm.
that's
Mhm.
pretty. She approached you with humility and grace. And humility and grace is one of the tools that, or two of the tools that I really try to use in our group and how we deal with our children. And if I'm honest, humility and grace is not something I grew up with. It's not something that I expressed early on with my own children, but it is something that I've always desired to have more of, so that it would foster a better relationship between my mother and my children and myself. And my mother is has been deceased for a while now, so I didn't get to fully get into that with her. But I know that I can do it, with my mother-in-law, with my aunts, and things like that. If we are willing to approach these relationships with humility and grace, then it allows us to hear each other more clearly
Mhm.
and experience that love that we are really searching for oftentimes with these songs about the kids and these songs that we're listening to in this current society, because some of these songs are like, oh my goodness,
I hear you.
I'm not sure exactly what they're all talking about. But I definitely know that some of them I don't want my daughter to listen to
Yes.
because
Yes. Yes. Yes.
it's too much.
But
But I want to give you an opportunity to just share a little bit more about just your life as a music therapist and some of the, like, maybe one big like standout moment to you where you utilize music to have an impact in a relationship between maybe if you've ever done family or group therapy sessions, where you've seen how the music was able to have a positive influence in that.
yes, one particular instance was a woman who had leukemia, and it was not well with her. It was not going well, treatment. And we knew that was the case. She had two beautiful children, very small, I think 3 and maybe 5. And they knew something was wrong. She had to spend a great deal of time in the hospital. So she was away from them a lot. And the way we used music, she would compose, she'd tell me a story, we'd set it to music, I'd bring instruments and she would play them, and we'd call them on the phone at night when she ordinarily would read them stories before they went to bed. And we use these creative stories that included them in them uh, at night, and it was a beautiful ritual. Sometimes we would record them, obviously, because I'm not going to be there at night, but that was one thing. When she was discharged from the hospital, um, I went to her home, and we just she knew she was her that her days were numbered, and she asked me, could we do something with the children that would um, I want to leave good memories. I want them to have fun together with me so I can be a part of it. And I went out and we did a lot of crazy, silly things that were very meaningful to her, to watch her children smile and laugh and create on their own. So that's one thing that comes to mind. Another, hmm, hmm, I hesitate always because some of the things that are most powerful sometimes are very sad too. But there was a mother who was she was a lawyer. Her husband was a lawyer. Her husband was hospitalized with cancer, and again, he was very intolerant of the children who wanted to come see daddy all the time. They'd crawl all over him and they'd get all, um, they'd get on his nerves. And
Mhm.
he asked his wife, now he'd been in the hospital for at least a month. So it wasn't as though, daddy will be home tomorrow, but he said, don't bring them back. Just don't bring them back. They're, they don't know how to act. They crawl up here. They get all, it's on my nerves. Don't bring them. Well, the children really wanted their dad. And with things not going well, the wife wanted them to have as many meaningful moments as possible. So here's what I suggested, that she bring the children. She wanted time to spend with him herself. And I said, bring the children. I'm going to take them to the waiting room down the hall, and we're going to compose a song for dad. And I have some instruments and things that we can use. And I'm going to use my favorite things. That's their good song, their favorite song. And I said, so tell me things that your dad, that you just love about him. And they did. What's your mom like to cook? Because I wanted to throw her in there too. And they told me about that. And what was your most fun vacation and all of that. It took us a good 35, 40 minutes. I wanted to give the mother and father time alone, but also gather enough material to. So we practiced it. I gave them instruments so they could orchestrate it. The little girl was a real prancy princess, and she wanted to dance a little bit of it and twirl. And so I said, okay, now we're going to do this. I'll bet your dad is going to be very happy about you, but let's practice it to be sure. Now, I don't want this to go, walked in the room, did this thing. They didn't crawl all over him and jump. They just, and then they looked at him for approval. Like, what'd you think? Weren't we wonderful? And the mother too was so thankful to hear her name among all this. And so learning to not only feed into what was important, what was age appropriate, what was necessary. I taped it and told the children, do you know what? Tonight, when your daddy gets ready to go to sleep, he's going to be listening to you sing as he falls asleep. Won't that be something? So I think sometimes music it's simply the vehicle to bring people together in a way that I was trying, and the parents too, to make it meaningful and last. There's so many many stories. I will tell you this one, and then I'll hush. My mother came to live with me the last. I retired 1 year, and she lived with me during that whole year, and then there another 4 years. And she was in good health, good mental health and all. But she was 97, and she knew the Lord. She was very confident about where she was going. And I think she was just tired. It's time. So I would judge her mood by the songs she wanted to sing, or the song she would sing spontaneously. And we'd sit down at the piano, and I would go through the hymn book one page at a time, and she would remember, oh, I learned that one when I was in Washington, Georgia, and that was, at my high school. I sang that one at my uncle's church. I sang this one when I went to Spelman. I'll never forget that, in chapel. And she'd remember the people, and it was just like her mind and heart just blossomed. And she remembered our home church, Phillips Temple, that we went to. So it was a means of almost a life review.
Mhm.
So as time went on, and I could tell she was slowing down, one day we would wash dishes every day after dinner together. And I said, "Ma, teach me a song." And she thought about it. Daughter, I don't know. Yes, you do, Ma. Teach me something. And here's what she sang. And I'm thinking, where is her heart now? He brought me all the way. He carries my burdens every day. He's such a wonderful Savior. I've never known him to fail me. He's brought me all the way. That's the whole song. She didn't know any verses, but I realized that the kind of down mood she had been in underneath it all, that was her her mood, that's where her head was, that's where her heart
Mhm.
was. He's brought me all the way, and he's never failed me. He's going to keep doing that. I was so grateful that it wasn't something else, that
Yeah.
she could have sung. And that song, I've never been able to find it, but it has stuck with me when I'm in a little valley.
Yeah.
Um, and I'm only 74. So here she is, 97, ready to meet her maker, but holding on to the fact that he's never failed and he's always going to be there for her. So the the means or the meaning for that for me is that song got me in touch with where my mother's head was, her heart was, and it gave me a gift that I will hold here forever. You know, it's it's a link that is steadfast and strong. We can pass that on to our children. It can be
Yeah.
something in a song. It can be um, something in a poem, a letter, um, and and it's a part of a legacy. And I said I was going to stop, but I remember a lady at the hospital saying to me, "I want to write something for my teenage daughter. She's
Mhm.
only 14, but and even if I don't get through this, um, I'll tell you the best part that we had. I dressed her all up, put her on lipstick and made those eyes, got all the stuff. And we went to a bar together. Now my face is saying, oh, my heart is saying, what? She said, "This is what I want you to put in the song." Yes, and I vouched for her that she was 18 and she and I had drinks together sitting at the bar. I'll never forget that. And that's what I want you to write about. Okay, now I'm knowing this woman probably in another few weeks is not going to be here. And this is what her daughter is going to carry for her. So um, I said, "Tell me some more ideas. Lord, please don't tell me this is the only thing that she wants to leave with her daughter." And she told me that she and her daughter went out afterwards and toilet papered somebody's house that was her daughter's so-called friend, but that she was a cheerleader who didn't, and she told that story. So here I've got these two things that I'm going to try to make endearing. And I'm thinking, Lord, I I want her daughter to have more of her mother than that. So one other question I asked her was, what do you want for your daughter's future? Where do you see her in 10 years? what will she be doing? And how in the world will she get there? What are your thoughts about that? And that's when she opened. She said, I want her to go to school and I want her to help people. And I want her to be feisty and And so she told me enough things that I could pull from that we wrote this song together. Um, I oh, I love people being honest, but I also know that you can listen beyond their words and
Mhm.
hopefully give them something to leave of great value. So yeah, music can do a lot for relationships.
I mean, you have shared so much, and it's all been so valuable and allowed us to see into how music can really bridge gaps and create precious memories in our relationships with one another, with our daughters, with our mothers. And so I want to thank you for being here and for sharing so much of yourself on this evening. I want to thank you for your willingness to share with all of us and talk about your experiences over 35 years of serving as a music therapist in the hospitals. People do not realize uh, the impact it can have on you as an individual, seeing so many different things in the therapeutic setting and what people are going through. And so I want to say thank you for your willingness to just give of yourself and being true to the assignment and the request that you made of God to say, I want to give the way that it was given to me. And you certainly have done that. Um, you certainly have done that. And I know some of the people at the hospital that I frequent with my daughter, and I told them that I was going to be speaking with you, and they were just like in awe. So a little jelly of me to just be able to connect with someone such as yourself. And so I'm looking forward to being able to share this video with them. And again, I just want to say thank you for what you shared, and thank you. I know that the people, let's see, there's some people who are in the comments who are just appreciating how beautiful you shared with us the songs that you have sung. I mean, that memory with your mom is almost had me. I was like, keep it together, sis, because I understand moments like that. And it's someone said, Barbara, Dr. Barbara, what a precious encounter. And of course, Vivian is in the comments talking about glory, hallelujah. Uh, and so we're just grateful for someone like you to have impact on us, the generation that's coming behind you, to serve and also to have positive relationships with women. It's people like you, the same way that you receive the pour, you have poured, and we want to be able to pour as well to the next generation. So thank you for being here tonight.
My pleasure.
And I hope that we can, do this again another time, maybe do a panel or something like that. I would love that.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much for the invitation. It's meant a lot to me.
It's my pleasure. It's my pleasure. So thank you all for joining us tonight. Thank you for watching. Again, this is Shift the Narrative with Tanisha Carroll, and I am your music therapy expert, and I coach moms of tween daughters how to navigate their relationship with humility and grace to resolve conflict due to communication disparity, lack of understanding of their individual collective assignment, and rethink madness using music therapy, biblical principles, and clarity to get you on assignment. You will be able to see this again, this interview again on our YouTube page. So please subscribe. It is Assignment Coach Tanisha Carroll, and it will be up by Friday. Okay, so thank you all for being here, and I hope that you have a wonderful night. Let's see, I'm on the wrong page.